Great, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to everyone who's joining us this morning. We're really grateful for your interest in the Citrus Seed Funding Program. This is an exciting flagship program for Citrus that's been going on for many years and has seeded many projects that have also gone on to great success after having their start here with seed funding from Citrus. My name is Camille Curtin. I'm Executive Director of Citrus, and I'll be joined by a number of my colleagues here this morning who will help to explain some of the details. First, we'll give you a brief overview just about Citrus in case you are new to our program. I wanted also just to say that in this webinar format, we would be happy to take your questions and answers, and we'll be using the Q&A box for that. We'll have time at the end to respond to any of your questions that we haven't covered in the opening remarks. So I think we can go to the next slide and just introduce the Citrus directors. As you might know, Citrus covers 4 UC campuses. We're headquartered at UC Berkeley, where Professor Kostas-Spanos is the director overall of the Citrus program based here at Berkeley. He'll give remarks in a few minutes. Professor Saif Islam is at Citrus Davis. He is the campus director there at Citrus Davis. Josh Veers is the campus director at UC Merced, and JJ Garcia Luna Aceves is at UC Santa Cruz. So if you're joining us from a campus anywhere, but not from Berkeley, then you'll recognize these folks who can be good contact people for you at those campuses. Many of their executive staff are also joining us on this call and can also be good resources for you if you have questions. So with that, I turn it over to Kostas to tell us a little bit more about Citrus.
Thank you, Camille, and good morning to everyone. I'm glad to tell you just a few words about Citrus. So many of you might be familiar with it, some of you not so much. Our mission is very important to us. We operate over 4 campuses. The name is Center for Information Technology Research in the Interest of Society and the Banato Institute. And we are here to create information technology solutions for society's most pressing challenges. We are behind a people-centered approach to this societal scale issues and transformation, and that is really truly central to our vision. And if you go to the next slide, let me tell you a little bit about what this institute is all about. This is a research institute, as I mentioned, operate 4 campuses, and even though we are built around information technology, we are by design a very multidisciplinary institute. We have core technology focus areas or initiatives, as we call them, and we have technology and society initiatives, as you can see here on this slide. Going to the left and just a brief listing of the core technology initiatives, starting with aviation. This is perhaps our most recent initiative. And I like the brief write-up here, understanding our changing planet from above. That's very important. Of course, it includes quite a bit of autonomy and drones, but also crewed aviation. We focus a lot on applications, wildfire monitoring and suppression being one of them, climate monitoring, and so on is important as well. The next initiative is about climate and sustainability. So water, energy, food, buildings, transportation are subjects that we study there. And the next one is health, again, through a broad information technology lens. We're looking at the digitally augmented care, analytics, and telehealth, and many other issues. And of course, in this day and age, we have to deal with automation, AI, and machine learning, and this goes under the initiative that we call People and Robots. We call it People and Robots for a very good reason, because of course, people come first, and automation and robots and AI are meant to have supportive and enhancing roles. So you might have noticed that these initiatives overlap, and this is by design. We are a very nicely integrated program, but going to the right side, on technology and society, a few years ago, we launched a very innovative policy lab. And the idea here is both to be educated by and to educate policymakers as they deal with fairly complex issues of very rapidly advancing information technology. We have established good relationships with government, both at the state and at the federal level. And we are working with them to make sure that the regulation and policies that touch or driven by information technology make sense for the general good. Edge in Tech is our initiative for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging, specifically in the tech sensor. But I have to say that I mentioned before that initiatives are overlapping. Well, the Edge in Tech describes our ethos across the entire CITRIS program, but it is a focal point with a very strong outreach program, including a flagship symposium that we run every spring. The Workforce Innovation Program is relatively new. It is funded by the state, and it is meant to connect UC students with in-demand career paths. We have completed the first very successful round with about 80 students receiving very prestigious fellowships in both research and corporate partners. And just earlier this week, they told us all about their experience this summer. And of course, we're ready now for the second year. And of course, CITRIS Foundry, it is meant to take the ideas generated in our ecosystem and propel them to make them successful companies to transition from laboratory to the market. Should go to the next slide. So what is the seed funding program? Well, the seed funding, the term seed funding was not chosen at random. It is an investment. It is a very early stage investment on our part, investment in your success as researchers. We launched it back in 2008. It's a platform to identify innovative ideas to benefit society. We like to catalyze initial work that leads to larger extramural pursuits. So this is the return of investment. The return of investment is you take these ideas, grow them, from the very early stage through the support that you receive through the seed fund, and then turn them around and write a very compelling, large, interdisciplinary proposal to an outside agency and grow the program from there. And of course, it is meant to leverage the strength of multiple UC campuses and multiple disciplines. So today it's all about the seed program. This is the 2022 version, and you're gonna hear much more about it in the next of the presentation. Julie.
Thank you so much, Kostas and Camille, for that great introduction to CITRIS as an institute. And we're so glad to see that there are attendees from all of our campuses online today. So what we'd like to dive into now is sharing more about the seed funding program itself, and then talk through this year's opportunities so that you understand how to prepare a compelling proposal. And we thought we'd start by explaining the program through some examples. So these are 4 of the funded projects from last year. There were others, but we chose these to really give you a sense of the breadth and interdisciplinarity of the projects that we're looking for and have funded successfully in the past. So you can see here, they range from a sort of water information system approach for the state of California, mapping the agricultural water infrastructure. So that's sort of a data and mapping project, to a building materials project looking at creating novel fire-resistant building materials and then adding sensors to those materials for testing and performance evaluation. There was also an exciting project using shark skin inspired coatings and using computational tools to develop those coatings and design them to reduce drag for use in wind turbines, piping, applications like that for ultimate goals of energy conservation. And the final project that touches into our policy lab that you heard about earlier is that California recently rolled out some consumer privacy protections, which were quite at the leading edge for the United States. And these PIs propose to actually audit how well that is being implemented using some very interesting web scraping tools and back-end data analysis to look at how well this is actually being adopted. So I hope that gives you some flavor of the types of projects we're funding. You can see here that these were teams from multiple campuses and multiple disciplines, and we're just really thrilled to be watching these ones and seeing how they do. We also wanted to share with you what some of the final outcomes are of these projects to help you calibrate whether this program is appropriate for the idea that you have in mind and the sort of stage that you are at, and to maybe inspire you about what's possible through the seed funding program. So we'll share 2 examples. The first was led by Professor Kenichi Soga at UC Berkeley and Professor John Harvey at UC Davis. They both come from civil and environmental engineering, and they were looking at the future of intelligent transportation by embedding fiber optics in roads and getting better mesoscale data on, whether a pedestrian is passing by, an animal, another vehicle, sort of that close range hazard detection. And you can imagine all the implications that that has for autonomous driving and assisted driving. The project, after their 12-month seed funding, went on to gain about $380,000 from 2 industry partners who were interested in further commercializing this. The team also created their own startup spinoff for distributed fiber optic sensing. They created an exciting new testbed facility up at the Richmond Field Station here at Berkeley. So there's an active road testbed that is a long-term asset coming out of this project. And they engaged 5 postdocs and grad students in the work. The second example is from the healthcare domain. Professor Christina Davis at UC Davis and Dr. Nick Kenyon at the UC Davis School of Medicine worked together to leverage Christina Davis's incredible breadth of experience detecting diseases through our exhalation, the water droplets and the metabolites that come out through our exhaled breath, and determining whether that could be used to detect flu and influenza using sort of a smart mask or a wearable. And then they had an aha moment, realizing that it worked well enough that this could be done potentially at home to allow for at-home monitoring of COVID-19. They had great success after this initial funding. They won 5 additional grants, including funding from the National Institutes of Health. They're actively pursuing multiple commercialization pathways with interested parties. They were featured in the New York Times, had 5 research publications, and were able to engage 11 students in the project. So I hope that gives you a sense of what's possible. And then if we look at the entire seed funding portfolio to date, as Kostas mentioned, we launched this in 2008. We've funded about 240 projects since then. We've funded, about 350 researchers and about 400 students to work on these one-year projects. We've allocated $13 million to these initial inspiring ideas and have found that they've gone on to raise about a 4x multiplier on those initial funds through state, government, federal agencies. And you'll also see here private sector support and private foundations as well have helped further some of these projects. So this is all possible through a number of assets that are part of the citrus ecosystem that we want to make sure you are aware of and familiar with. So as you know, Citrus spans multiple campuses across Northern California for the UC system. And on the right, you'll see a number of the test beds, facilities, and laboratories that we either directly operate or have very close relationships with. So we really enjoy plugging in our awardees to the different assets that are available to them, and also finding projects that might be incubated in some of these labs and test beds. So please know that this larger ecosystem is available and ready to support your work. We also have a great team that helps make this happen. So we wanted to introduce them to you as you go through the application process, the proposal review, and then if you are an eventual awardee, we hope that you'll be interacting with this team quite a bit. So we have Nate, Lee, and Michael Matkin from our partner campuses at Davis, Merced, and Santa Cruz, and most of them are on the call today to help answer questions. We also have Ravneet, Angelica, and myself, who are part of the core seed funding team. We'll be responding to your questions, helping you through the process. And I'd also like to acknowledge Tamara Bach and Pushkar Apte, who are on the call today. They are part of our external outreach team. They're looking at how to connect donors, philanthropists, foundations, and industry partners to support the great research and faculty and work that you all are doing. So they are definitely engaged in the seed funding program and helping make those connections. Thank you, Tamara, for saying hi in the chat. Good to have you here. So let's shift now into specifics about this year's call for proposals. We wanted to orient you on the timeline. We do design this program to be lightweight and somewhat rapid to match the goal of seeding early stage ideas. So we're not asking for a year-long proposal development process. We really try to help this be somewhat easy and low friction for you to get those ideas that are in your back pocket out there, evaluated, and see if they're funding worthy. So we're currently in the first phase. Between now and October 10th is when the RFP is out in the wild, and teams are forming, projects are being worked on or scoped out. And then on October 10th, the proposals will be due online. We'll then shift into the review phase. We have several layers of reviewers, both internal and external to campus, who help us evaluate proposals. And then by December 15th, we will identify the finalists, notify the awardees, and help publicize that on your campuses. We've had some great partnerships with the campus media teams in the past to really highlight these awardees and celebrate the new funding. One interesting thing that we're introducing this year, if you have been part of seed funding in the past, is based on faculty feedback, we are now offering your choice of 2 separate start dates. So you'll know by end of December if you're receiving the funding, and you will be able to tell us in the application if you would like to start on January 1st as your 12-month performance period, or wait until September 1st for your 12-month performance period to begin. And that was based on a lot of feedback around, perhaps the need to hire graduate students or even recruit appropriate graduate students and fit that in with their normal hiring cycle. There may be interesting equipment you need to procure, or human subjects and IRB approvals that might mean a later date would make more sense for you. So we're piloting this to give you some flexibility, and we encourage you to pick the date that you think works best for you. And we see some great questions coming up in the Q&A. We will look forward to getting to those. So once you've determined if the timeline fits for you, we'd also like you to choose which category you'd like to apply under, and this maps to which reviewers we invite to look at your proposal. You heard a bit about these from COSTAS because they map very closely to the Citrus Research Thrust, but the full detail about each of these with their full technical descriptions is available on the seed funding website. So a high-level overview right now is that we have Aviation for a Changing Planet. We are specifically looking for things that look at the future of fuels, propulsion, energy storage, new delivery and logistics solutions, and then looking at route planning, safety systems for uncrewed flight, and also just the explosion of exciting remote sensing applications that are happening now, sort of at the drone scale. Mostly around wildfires is where we've seen a lot of traction in the past, but there are many applications around agriculture, disaster response that would be very appropriate. We also have a category for sustainability and climate resilience, and this is really looking at sort of the societal scale infrastructure. What are those life support systems for society that are being strained and challenged as we go forward into the future? So this is energy, infrastructure, water, food, housing, transit, and large-scale hazard mitigation. We also have a long-standing specialty in digital health innovation, and this is often in partnership with our colleagues at the UC Davis School of Medicine. So this team is really looking for innovative proposals around healthy aging in a digital world. How do we ensure that our elders are coming along with technology and actually benefiting from it rather than being left out? Ensuring equitable access to care, including, again, longstanding expertise in telemedicine services and telehealth to ensure that people have good access wherever they are. And also some newer interests around sort of the public health aspects and understanding environmental health hazards. So how do climate and heat events impact human health, and how could IT help address that? And then obviously informatics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning for very large healthcare data sets. In our people and robots category, there's a strong interest this year in emerging applications that are appropriate for new contexts, such as healthcare, agriculture, manufacturing, and ensuring that those automated systems are robust, reliable, intuitive, safe, and accessible. So really thinking about the human in the loop. How do these automated systems help support and even ensure the safety of the humans who operate them and engage with them? A new category that we're calling out this year that I hope will really tap the strengths of the citrus community going back 2 decades is around semiconductors and systems. So this is in response to the federal priorities around semiconductor supply chains and the need to continue innovating in this area. So we're looking for proposals around next generation devices, architectures and integrations, and also looking at the sustainability of the semiconductor supply chain, perhaps ultra low power or low resource designs, and looking at maybe reducing water or energy use at different stages of manufacturing. Let's see, we're getting some other good questions. Glad we'll have some good things to talk about in the Q&A. So once you've determined which category fits for you, we'd like you to consider the requirements. There are a few exclusions and ways that you need to structure your proposal to qualify for the program. The 2 biggest ones are that these are team-based proposals by design. So you need to have at least 2 principal investigators from the University of California, and they must each be from a different citrus campus, which you'll see listed there: Berkeley, Davis, Davis Health, Merced, and Santa Cruz. For the purposes of our SEED program, to really encourage interdisciplinary thinking, it does count to have a PI from UC Davis and a PI from UC Davis Health, because they tend to be coming at the problem from very different perspectives given the health center's specialty in medicine. Also for budget, I hope this is good news for all of you on the call. These are very purposely designed awards that are unrestricted, no overhead is taken, and you should not need the involvement of your sponsored projects office. If you do get questions about that, please reach out to us. That hasn't been a problem in the past, and so we can help explain and navigate that with you if needed. The funds cannot be used for faculty salary, summer salary, or non-resident tuition. We allocate roughly $50,000 per project, so think about how to calibrate your budget to fit that. It often goes to support graduate students or postdocs, equipment purchases, developing data sets or doing pilot studies. So try to think, as you all do, strategically about how to best use those funds for a 12-month performance period to really prove out a concept, build a data set, validate something that will get you to that next level. And then to find a collaborator, we offer several resources for this. There is a wonderful online directory on our website. So you can search the researcher directory by keyword or by campus to find folks who might be a match and reach out to them. We also encourage you to, ask your peers for introductions. Maybe there's someone they know at one of the other campuses. And here we want to emphasize that we're definitely encouraging collaborators who are outside of the engineering STEM departments and world. We've had many projects in the past where a computer scientist and an economist paired up together, someone from art practice with maybe mechanical engineering. So we really are looking for those interesting cross-disciplinary, cross-departmental pairings. Your Citrus campus leads who are on the call today can also help you with matchmaking if needed. And if you still can't find anyone, please do message us at seedteam@citrus-uc.org, and we will do our best to connect you with our internal team who is familiar with active faculty in the area of your interest. So to prepare your team's information before you apply, here's a quick checklist. We also provide a very comprehensive blank application when you get to the proposal login page. So you're welcome to just download that and kind of use that on the side to make sure you've got everything ready before you actually enter the application platform. So we try to, again, keep this very simple and lightweight for you. Project title, which category you're applying under, a public-facing summary, a more in-depth technical narrative, and then a brief statement about the impact that you think this project could potentially generate in the world, and possible downstream applications to help us know how you're thinking about what might flow from this in the next year, 2 or 3. And then just a brief budget explanation and an optional graphic file if you'd like to upload some sort of illustration. We ask for very basic information about your co-investigators, just their name, campus, department, and a CV link, usually to their campus webpage works well. 2 new things for this year. We have an incredible fundraising team at Citrus, including Pushkar and Tamara. So we now ask if you are open as a proposal team to help. We can help shop around your proposal and make that visible to some of our potential funders. So we give you the opportunity to tell us if you're open to that. We overwhelmingly get a yes on that one. So please do look for that checkbox on the application form. And then we'll hear a little bit more later about whether there are certain societal impact areas that you think your project is really a good fit for. And we'll hear more about that in a moment. So when you're ready to apply, we have a great online portal. The link to that is on the Seed Funding RFP webpage. You just click apply. You can either register as a new user or log in if you've done this before. We do encourage the lead PI to do this process. It's just helpful on a number of fronts. Then we sort of know who's driving the proposal on the back end. We have that person's contact info as the primary contact. But if that doesn't work for you, any of the team members are welcome to create the proposal. You can also have a graduate student or an assistant help you out and then fill in the info for your team. It's a pretty straightforward form. I think if you have all your information together, it shouldn't take you more than half an hour to fill out. And then you just click submit, and you can even share it with your collaborators before the final submission. And then we ask that you do some post-award reporting for us. Again, we keep this lightweight, and we're just trying to focus on successes and results that we can help you scale up. So after the 12-month performance period, we send out a brief online reporting form. We ask for your major findings. What sort of great insights did you have? Any resulting publications, presentations, or media interest that we could help amplify for you. And then any follow-on funding that you have either confirmed or is pending. We're also interested if you are thinking about actual commercialization pathways. Maybe you realize that this is suitable for a startup spinoff, or you've started conversations with some industry partners. We also like to highlight if students were engaged in the projects. We find that campus leadership is always so thrilled to hear this, and they really like to know that the research mission and the student education mission can find some overlap here through the SEED program. And then if you tell us your next steps that are planned, we are eager to help support those. So how to write a strong proposal. This is outlined also on the RFP webpage, but we really are looking for a few key things. And I think we wanted to summarize these for you to help you understand what has maybe caused proposals to be screened out in the past, and then what has led to successful proposals. So we're really looking for that potential for societal impact. Is the challenge that's in the world and its scope described well, and what are the anticipated societal benefits of this project as opposed to maybe more of a basic research investigation? Is there potential that you have made clear for scale up and follow on funding? Like, can you articulate how the proof of concept results could support a larger award application or proposal in 1 to 2 years? Can you help us see that pathway? And specifically, has the topic that you're interested in been identified by government, industry, or philanthropic sources as a priority funding area? That's always a positive to see. And then we're interested in the alignment with Citrus Focus. I think this is the one where I've seen the most proposals screened out in the past, where there was not a clear and prominent role for information technology, which is what Citrus's mission is all about, information technology to benefit society. If that IT component is not front and center and novel, then this may not be the best funding program for you. So what does that mean? That means, is there an application of existing IT in a very novel and innovative way? Or are you actually helping to advance or develop new IT processes or devices even? And kind of a litmus test for these is, are you approaching the IT question in a way that's interesting enough that you might want to publish that or present it at a conference. So rather than using IT as a tool to do something, the IT itself is a piece of the research and the advancement. And then feasibility, again, these are designed to be 12-month, year-long projects. For those of you who teach and have many other roles on campus, we understand that this means you're probably juggling a lot of priorities. So can the scope of the proposal reasonably be achieved in 12 months? We're not looking for you to try to achieve the moon and the stars, but really advance something along in a year that could make a difference. And then we really encourage diverse views. This is not a requirement, but thinking about including pre-tenured faculty, folks from multiple disciplines and backgrounds, we think really helps to strengthen the proposal and the different perspectives that the co-PIs are bringing to the problem. So I'd like to invite two of my colleagues now to give some insight on this societal impact piece. We will ask you to share some words about the potential impact of the project in your proposal. And we really want to help you think from the CITRIS lens about how tech can propagate through society in beneficial ways, because there are also potential drawbacks or concerns and considerations to be aware of. So I'd like to invite Brandy and Jill to share with us their thoughts about maybe how you could consider addressing policy, regulation, diversity and equity, or workforce considerations, those sort of big societal questions in your proposal. Brandy, would you like to share a few words now?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Julie. So I'm Brandy Nonike. I direct the CITRIS Policy Lab, where we support interdisciplinary tech policy research and engagement. And I think probably many of you at first blush, don't think that your work has implications for policy, but it oftentimes does, especially if we look at the semiconductor industry and the innovative research that you might be doing in that space. Well, we just had the CHIPS and Science Act passed that has also earmarked funding for research purposes. So the CITRIS Policy Lab, if you were to identify opportunities to shape policy at the federal and state level, we are more than happy to help you facilitate those connections and identify ways to translate your research into deliverables that can be effective at shaping policy in both the public sector and the private sector. And then one other thing I would like to point out, that actually for NSF and the broader impact strategy, an often overlooked broader impact strategy is actually whether or not the research can shape public policy. I think we often think of our broader impact strategies for those federal grants to mostly be around diversity, equity, and inclusion, but that public policy component is also there.
Thank you so much, Brandy. And I really encourage all of you on the call to learn more about the CITRIS Policy Lab and the great work that Brandy is leading there. She's really helping many layers of UC leadership understand the close connection between tech innovation and policy impacts. And she's been featured many times in that role, including helping UC develop their policy on the use of artificial intelligence. So thank you, Brandy, for your remarks. And now I'd like to hand over to Jill to share with you perspectives from the Edge and Tech Initiative at CITRIS.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a terrific opportunity, as Brandy just alluded to. A lot of follow-on funding rewards research that provides broader impacts, and there are several definitions around broader impacts, but the key thing I want to emphasize here is that diversity, equity, and inclusion is the intentional how on how we do research. It's not an add-on that we do at the end, and so it's really helpful for us if you can share how you have embedded these inclusive activities into your program, and sort of three key areas to consider in your proposal, in addition to the policy opportunity that Brandy's identified, is broadening participation. So who can participate in this research? Can you engage undergraduates, junior faculty, really being focused on who can be doing the research with you? The second thing is broadening the beneficiaries. So thinking about how can you co-create with historically marginalized communities? How can you engage your local community? So really looking at who is going to have the benefits of your research and the solutions and innovations that come from that, and co-creating with them. The third would be broadening communication. And this is an opportunity to build into your proposal how you will share out the findings to increase learning, to increase on-ramps and interest in a particular sector, and to broaden the talent pipeline. Which leads us nicely to the workforce innovation considerations. So the opportunity here to build in how can you promote job skill acquisition, applied learning, internships, to promote representation and career paths for people who may not have considered this route prior, especially those who lack privilege or prior exposure or resources to participate. And we have a workforce innovation program. We look for ways to embed interns with innovative research and labs, so there may be an opportunity there. Lastly, I just want to share in the chat, there are some good resources that give you great examples of how to build broader impacts into your proposals. And so I include 3 resources there. I will also say that your Vice Chancellor for Research at your campus will probably have some specific information as well. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Jill and Brandy. So we are very excited, obviously, at Citrus about thinking about, ideas from inception out into their adoption in the world and in society and what the implications of those are. So we will look at all of your proposals through that lens. And I really appreciate Brandy and Jill sharing how you can, start to weave that thread into your proposals of how you think the downstream impacts will play out for the research that you're interested in. And then prepare you ideally to be very well positioned to submit a proposal for a larger, NSF or federal source of funding, or even from philanthropy that does really require or prioritize these sort of broader impacts. So we are at the end of the presentation now. Here's a quick visual recap of what we covered and the important points for you to take away today. And we'd like to now go to open questions and make sure that we have answered what's on your mind. And I'll invite Camille and our other Citrus leaders here to help respond to questions that you have. So please do post them in the chat, and we are reading through them. I saw some great ones were answered while we were talking.
Yeah, I would say, take a look at the answered tab if you have some. I did answer some while you were talking, Julie, but of course we're happy to answer any in real time, or if you want to add them in the Q&A box, we can respond that way as well.
I'd like to add a little color to the great question about whether the project needs to be implemented in the United States. So obviously, Citrus is based in California. We're part of the University of California, and our charter is really to help California be economically competitive and have benefits to California's residents. With that said, I think we are all aware that what happens in California informs the world. We are one of the largest and most innovative economies on the planet. And so we have in the past funded projects, even in this last cycle, where the work was being done in a different country. I think that one that I'm thinking of was around microgrids in East Africa, but it had a very clear application that if it worked there, it could also work in rural parts of the United States. It was a similar problem they were trying to solve, and they just had early traction in that area where they were already working. So ideally California focused and in the US, but not exclusively.
A question came up earlier, I think, Julia, around PI eligibility, and just to make sure that people have PI status or are qualified for PI status on your campus. So there are different rules perhaps that apply, typically faculty members, sometimes postdocs or advanced graduate students might be able to request exceptional PI status, but that's a requirement to be eligible to apply.
Yes, and we've had many questions about PI status in the past. Part of it is just how funds are, distributed and allocated on campus and across the campuses. So the PI status really helps make that possible, that you can receive these kinds of award funds. With that said, we've many times in the past had a very proactive postdoc or grad student who had an idea and either worked with their advisor as the co-PI named on the project, or found another principal investigator to actually drive the project, and then the student was able to fulfill a lot of the work. Let's see if we have any new things coming in. What is the rationale for not allowing salary support? It makes it very challenging for clinician scientists to engage in research if they cannot buy out their clinical time. That's a great question. This requirement was in place before I came on board. It's been a long-standing one. Camille, do you have insight on that one?
I think it goes mostly to the fact that faculty members, we didn't want to buy out faculty members' salary support, but the clinician is in a different situation, and has different requirements for how you account for your time. So let's think about that and take it maybe back to our health initiative leaders and see what they might recommend about that.
Yes, and for whoever asked that, you're welcome to reach out to us directly at our Seed Team email account, and we can follow up with you. Thank you for raising that question.
There was a question earlier too about whether AI ML projects can apply only in the people and robots category or not. And I would say that that's such a ubiquitous and now emerging technique or tool to use for all kinds of analysis. So feel free to include that in applications across any of the domain areas. So just to recap, in case anyone joined after that slide, it's in aviation and climate, health, people and robots, and semiconductors. So, and as we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of overlap between those two. I would say don't agonize a lot if you have a project that might cross over more than one. Go ahead and submit it in the one that you think is probably most aligned. And if we need to get opinions from other colleagues during the review process, we have lots of people that we can call on to get their expert opinions.
Thanks, Camille. We have about 2 minutes left if there are other questions or comments from our attendees.
Reading the question, how closely must we adhere to citrus areas if there are obvious sources of funding, reliability and security in semiconductors? So semiconductors is a category that's eligible for applying to this year.
Yes. I think we put out those specific sub-bullets to inspire you and to kind of give you a sense of what our leadership is excited about for this year, but they are not exclusive at all. So if you see something that is a good fit in one of these categories and, like the Federal CHIPS Act is clearly a national priority, please do submit a proposal along those lines. It would be hard to cover all the areas of IT that have potential. It's just so vast. I think you could almost argue in this day and age that very few things don't have an IT component to them. So it really is a broad space that we can receive proposals in. As we close up and have 1 minute left, if any other questions come in, we're happy to answer them, but just wanted to share with all of you that this recording will be posted on our website in case you'd like to share it with any potential co-investigators or students who will be engaged in your proposal. We'll also share the slides on that same page. And we are here and available to answer your questions if you send us a note at seedteam@citrus-uc.org. We've got a great crew of people to help get your questions answered and help you submit strong proposals. And I'd also like to thank all of our multi-campus staff and leadership who are on the call today, who have been doing a lot of outreach and relationship building to help get the word out about this year's opportunity. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you. We look forward to reading your ideas.